Can he mount a stunning charge just like he did 7 days ago in Portimao? The green full rain in Spain. Bagnaia gets the great launch off the line from pole position. Likewise, Quartararo trying to get the drive out of the first corner, attacking Bagnaia into chase.
Poor start for Aleix Espargaro. He's dropped down to 6th. There's already some debris flying on. Maybe one of the winglets has been placed ahead of Nakagami and Marc Marquez, with Aleix Espargaro down in 6th.
This is the exact first corner. I think that was Paul Espargaro out really wide into Cito Pons corner. Marc Marquez then started P5, sitting in P5 as we come to the halfway point of this.
6, so Mir up 2 places into 7th. Not the first lap that Alex Rins had a week ago.
First lap so far for the man we're looking at directly ahead of Marc Marquez, attacking Nakagami. The time to try and find that elusive first podium in MotoGP. He's got a big task ahead of him though. Already starting to try and make some progress towards the front. Oh, Marquez, speedway.
Someone down on the top of the screen.
Further back.
Martin, I think.
Nakagami out wide. Yeah, Jorge Martin. Well, that could potentially be a 4th DNF expected for the Pramac Ducati man. All kinds of rims that he's already got a deal to replace.
I was about to ask how have they gone down together. They've had separate accidents, so Martin, they're losing at turn 13, so a disastrous start once again for Martin, but the top 2 of...
Yeah, Nakagami's getting roughed up a bit here early on in Spain. That was a really nice move to be. Now then, what can Fabio Quartararo do here? And what is going to race leader Pecco Bagnaia? But in this situation before, we've seen Fabio Quartararo struggle. Here he is though, trying to find a way through. He's going to have the corner speed on the Ducati through the Alex Crivier, close enough to attack Bagnaia.
Ron first lap for Aprilia. Aleix Espargaro is in a decent position, 10th position. He's just got past Fabio Di Gianantonio. Vinales has had a shocking first.
Vinales, as Lewis said, that's an absolute disaster for Vinales. That looked like Alex was down in 12th place, Alex Rins, so no stunning early charge from him like he did in Portimao. Rins only able to recover a couple of spots in the first 2 laps here in Spain.
On board then with he happy at the moment just to stay there. Bagnaia is very good on the brakes. Quartararo closes in as they then starting to develop between the leading duo and the second of the factory Ducatis.
Yeah, Mir rushing in hot. Race come to him, made a mistake in Q1 at turn 1 yesterday, which cost him a place. He felt then Pecco Bagnaia, Fabio Quartararo is just glued to his rear tyre at the moment, isn't he? Bagnaia, it would be the man we're looking back at now, the reigning world champion on the number 20 Yamaha. Fabio Quartararo around the red circuit, but he just can't get within striking distance to attack Bagnaia.
So that Quartararo isn't within closing distance of him as they approach turn 13 at the very 7-1 for Pecco Bagnaia. That's around about what we predicted the race pace would be before the Grand Prix.
Yeah, that's sector 3, as Lewis just mentioned, was where Bagnaia was untouchable in quality. At the end of that second qualifying session, as he destroyed the all-time lap record here, now place. And once again, the drive that Bagnaia can get on that Ducati out of the Cito Pons turn 6.
You can see further back, you can see on the left-hand side of your screen what's going on in the battle for third. In 5th position, Aleix Espargaro does feel he has the pace to go with this leading duo. He's going to have to get a move away after lost those 3 places in pretty short order. He's in 7th ahead of Marco Bezzecchi.
Yeah, that's an outstanding ride by Marco Bezzecchi. We're on board then now with Fabio Quartararo. That's to make the pass clean. He's a class act, this Fabio Quartararo. He's not one of those riders, a big secure move to get through on Bagnaia. What a job by Marco Bezzecchi, again 8th place. He's just set Army directly ahead of him. Jorge Martin did remount after his early spill, so up the grab for the former Moto3 world champion. He's down in last place, 25th spot.
The 13th, Brad Binder also making progress. He started 15th on the grid. He's now up into the...
Jack Miller slipped to 2nd behind Fabio Quartararo. So as we suspected, the superior race pace all weekend over the rest of the field, and they are now starting to make a decider in this 3rd sector on lap 5.
Not working out for Alex Rins. He's now just been passed by Alex Marquez, who's another rider trying to rebound from a pretty poor qualifying.
Rins, having got mired mid-pack, is now having problems with that front tyre temperature. That can make it where there's so much hard braking, so much abuse on that front tyre through the high-speed issue for Alex Rins. Pecco Bagnaia has just reeled off another battle. I think that's play of the race start. Oh, look at that. Elbow to elbow, wasn't it, between Aleix Espargaro and up into turn 1. They've exchanged a fair few frank words here this week, as it's going to get. Out of your picture here on the right-hand side is Aleix Espargaro. They're rubbing on the inside of Marc Marquez. Marquez, though, cut it back and was able to take that crash here in Jerez. Trail braking down the hill, tricky entry to the mid-17th place out of the likes of Marini, Vinales and Remy Gardner. That's a shame.
Of course, having a difficult afternoon once again. Franco Morbidelli is just outside the points in 16th. Dory and Bridle behind him, along with Jorge Martin, of course, who crashed early on in the different plane to everyone else. On the last lap alone, they were half a second quicker than everyone else on circuit. Up to half a second, and Jack Miller is over 2 seconds now behind his race-leading teammate.
Well, Pecco Bagnaia and Fabio Quartararo, because at the moment Jack Miller now has dropped all. At the moment he's quite comfortably keeping Marc Marquez behind him for that final of Quartararo. In that first sector alone on this lap 7, Quartararo and Bagnaia
out front early in the Grand Prix, as he perhaps would have hoped. We're on lap 7 of 25 now, William Place. This is the battle then for the final podium position at the moment. Marc Marquez doing a very good job to stitch there. Joan Mir not making the progress we might have expected. He had a poor lap last time around.
He managed to start this Grand Prix inside the top 5 in the championship, but Airbus Giannini's having a tough after. Johan Zarco's in 9th. Darren Binder's just entered the pits as now we're on board. Get close to Canny for Jack Miller. It's a bit frustrating right now for Marquez because he's out and he can't relax because Aleix Espargaro is keeping the pressure on. There's a bit of a gap then back to Mick Buffer, back to Nakagami, whose podium challenge has started to fade pretty dramatically, but that's about as good as it got for the Japanese man. Yeah, Nakagami's in a bit of a lonely 7th from Marco Bezzecchi just behind, who continues to hold his own in a very strong 8th position, but he certainly is here. This is still a great ride by Marc Marquez. He expected, he's already fighting for the podium. As we said pre-race, you write him off at your peril. Spanish Grand Prix. The home fans will be loving this if Marc Marquez can find himself 17 laps and a couple of corners before we see the checkered flag. And Marc Marquez has in a wreck. We're looking directly ahead then at Jack Miller. He's in 3rd place. Just out of your shot there was... Yeah, they match each other for pace once again. Just 0.003 of a second between the lap times. Once again, the chasing pack behind them were a full half second slower. Joan Mir was able to 7th lap of this Grand Prix. He's closed back in now to make it a 4-rider dice for the final podium spot. 37s, then a 138 flat. Just a whisker slower. As mentioned, and nothing between them at all on that previous lap. As we look at the helicopter shot, turn 7, it brings you into this stunning, spectacular stadium section here of a race day morning. At the moment, they've not got the Spanish leader that they mentioned, with 16.5 laps to go. This is the head-to-head we've been waiting for last year as Bagnaia chased Quartararo valiantly for the World Championship. Quartararo looks closer now to the back of Jack Miller, and Aleix Espargaro well and truly in touch too. Miller looks like he's got a bit of a cube. Flag out in sector 4. Just trying to work out who's tumbling down the timing tower. Miller Marquez
Rins, I think.
Aleix Espargaro.
Rins is dropping down.
It looks like it could be Alex Rins. Well, has he just run off?
So he's crossed the line in 22nd place. Oh, he's gone down altogether. Here he is.
Oh, he's off. Oh, that was a big moment on the front. T20 in a qualifying session which really hampered his championship charge early on.
Goes down too, man. We've got yellow flags out in sector 2, and Johan Zarco's dropping down at time screens. Confirmation on time.
Zarco, that's a second DNF of the season for him. Of course, he DNF'd in Argentina, so that was nasty. A right big slap down on that right wrist and right arm for Johan Zarco. 2 weeks' time back at the front, and it's been brilliant. Bagnaia at the moment, that's the inside of Miller into the final corner. There's no way through. Go free is the favourite, of course, as well. It's just 8 days ago since he suffered that horrible right shoulder injury. About Pecco Bagnaia, will that be a factor maybe which will keep Fabio Quartararo?
He did have an ice pack on that shoulder, so it's certainly something that he's looking to manage over the course of the Grand Prix. Is that shoulder likely to be a problem for you at the end of the Grand Prix? It comes down to a last lap, last corner.
Yeah, now then, at the moment, Millie, you've got to say, he's doing a fantastic job here of keeping Marquez in this Grand Prix. It's not been the way he wanted to celebrate his landmark 200th Grand Prix and the former Moto2 World Champion quite rightly says that's enough. He's calling it a day on the...
Interestingly, Mir's back down in the 139s now, a 39.0. Last time that steady pace in the high 138s, as is Marco Bezzecchi, who's doing a very good job. Here's Marc Marquez then holding firm, even if he's got no answer for the 2 up ahead.
Looks like Marquez is through the Alex Crimier and the Ferrari corners, but Miller's so good on the brakes going into that, the move stick, or there's not really contact. So Marquez at the moment seems like, wow, who on this lap has found another couple of tenths already here on Quartararo through the first sector. So much question marks about tyre life and durability in the latter stages, and Aleix Espargaro for 3rd.
Of course, at the end of this leading, they're 1 concession point away from potentially losing those. Aleix Espargaro, though, is more interesting in 2nd place. 20 points for that. If he stays where he is, he would increase his lead, of course, to 2nd place in the championship. As it stands, he's losing a further 9 points to the defending champion. A few metres on Jack Miller through those fast rights. But again, Miller's going a little bit hot there, didn't he? The Repsol man got sucked in a little bit. Just got to bide his time for that last podium place. They all bunch up again in that first corner. You can just see there, Miller in 3rd. Yeah, he's a 10th slower at the moment than the leader, Pecco Bagnaia. Fabio, still an awful long way to go. We're just at half distance in this Grand Prix. So Fabio Quartararo behind. Marc Marquez couldn't be following Jack Miller much more closely, could he? He's looked close this time, but...
Here for Marquez is he's been so long behind Jack Miller now. He knows exactly the strengths and weakness to find a way through. top job being done here by Miller as he tries to hang on to Mao when he was really starting to charge potentially towards second place when he clattered. He has done so far, Miller.
Behind this dice, we're starting to see some progress from Enea Bastianini, our up behind Marco Bezzecchi. Bastianini battling his fellow Italian for 8th position.
Yeah, Alex Rins is again just running a little bit wide into turn number 13, and Aleix Espargaro will close up on the factory. He's down in 21st after that high-speed scare at turn 12.
Thousandths of a second slower than Pecco Bagnaia on that last lap. They're both continuing to lap position. Here they are, the leaders. Quartararo a certain distance behind Bagnaia, but just trying to keep up with Pecco Bagnaia, or is he keeping his powder dry and just keeping some tyre left?
VR 46 Ducati rookie Marco Bezzecchi. There he is, directly ahead of 0.7 seconds to regroup and recover to Taka Nakagami ahead of him. That's going to be a big challenge, just over the halfway point of the Spanish Grand Prix. Bastianini in 9th. Brad Binder, after he ran wide earlier at turn 5, he's in 11th, and it's Oliveira, Alex Marquez, Marie.
A bit of a spurt on now on this lap as Aleix Espargaro gets close to the back of Marc Marquez. Still 0.55 from Quartararo. Bagnaia was quicker that lap than he had been previously at 38.2.
What we saw in both FP3 and FP4 when he went out on that warm medium rear tyre, clearly Aleix Espargaro. So he'll be thinking, he can forget about winning here, a dream. He'll be thinking, based on FP4 and FP3, he was the superior man. So Aleix Espargaro could still be right in the hunt here for another podium finish.
Once again, halfway around this 15th lap of 25, it's back under half a second. Bagnaia so often been strong, largely incorporating, of course, that back straight. They click through the tended to pull out a little bit of an advantage, and then Quartararo closes in again in the final sector.
Fabio Quartararo and Yamaha desperate, as we mentioned, to keep their prized asset on a factory ride, because at the moment he's second and still firmly in victory contention here in Spain. He's scoring places. He's a bit of a lone warrior right now, isn't he? Randy Amaro, I think, put it so well, hasn't he? Yamaha desperately need to find a way to make the numbers stack up and keep second between this man, the race leader Bagnaia. He's been there right from the start, but Bagnaia has managed this perfectly so far.
Don't know if something happened to 3/4 of a second. Aleix Espargaro then looking a little impatient up behind Watts.
Yeah, I think you're right, Lewis, in that Quartararo's managing that front, keeping that front tyre cool enough and saving some for the fight at the end. The bike without using the edge grip. You guys saw him heading out on the last turning, but he's got Aleix right behind him.
Yeah, he's in a Miller, Aleix Espargaro. Some laps now, haven't they? Aleix Espargaro's not been able to find a way to attack Marquez ahead of him. Look, they've not been close enough to get inside of the men directly ahead of him. Lap 16 was the Italian, a 1:38.203.
Well, this was roundabout where he expected to be, still running in a very competitive 4th of the moment position. Mir 1.8 seconds further back and making no real inroads in the trio up ahead of him.
Attack coming finally from Aleix Espargaro, potentially into the turn 6 to Danny Pedrosa inside of the Repsol Honda man there. It didn't come because we're on board now with Aleix Espargaro. There is turn number 8, Miller running that slightly wider line on the factory Ducati, the Setting Striders, fighting for the podium in the Spanish Grand Prix. Jack Miller, though, still the second year in a row. The race winner here, of course, last year. He won't be repeating that. The factory is all 7/10 clear of Fabio Quartararo.
You can see visibly once again Marc Marquez closing an advantage, but just not enough of a straight in between 12 and 13 for Marquez to get a real run. Keeping Marc Marquez at bay, and Aleix Espargaro really the sole challenger for a brilliant, but only 15th position at the moment for him.
Just topsy-turvy at the front in terms of lap, who's just slightly quicker, down to a 1:38.265, less than a 10 faster, a bit like Quartararo really. When the pair of them can get to the front early on and lead, they're so a classic showdown here then. That's your live championship. Of course, we've lost Johan Zarco, a real tough day. He's not been able to regroup at all after that off-track excursion at Lorenzo Savadori for 20th, but there'll be no points, it looks like, on the table today for the Suzuki. 12 points behind Quartararo. It could get better here as Marquez is the attack. How good is Jack Miller on that front end into turn 13? Again, Marc Marquez just said, get it on the fat part of the tyre and then use that drive grip to try and find a way through all over his rear tyre.
Yeah, it's so easy to sucker someone into that fight. To plenty of action into turn 13. Aleix Espargaro on board with now in Piquez, who's got only eyes ahead of him. Of course, he'll be able to hear the Aprilia right behind. If Marc Marquez can somehow pull a podium out of the hat, he's got to find a way.
Well, that factory Honda is Marc Marquez. Taka Nakagami he's 16.3 seconds away from your race leader, Pecco Bagnaia. Ferraro's manager, Eric Mahe, as we said, Quartararo's value to imagine that they are going to let him go without an almighty fight. Where will Fabio Quartararo go? Suits his riding style. It's like that M1 was tailor-made for Fabio Quartararo. But again, gap between Bagnaia and Quartararo. 6 laps to go here in Jerez. Who's kept versus Quartararo as they sweep through turn 3 on lap 20.
Quartararo a little bit again in the first sector. It's 0.8 of a second now. So Quartararo not gone so far in this battle with the reigning world champion. We're now coming into the part of the track where he's so strong.
It's still as you were then, this battle for 3rd, 4th and 5th. It's Miller will make any inroads into this battle for 3rd place. We thought at one stage, there he is on the blue numbers, he was going to come into contention. That challenge has not materialised as yet. It was Lewis O'Connor.
Just 5 laps to go then as they cross the line. Marc Marquez, of course, who joined his teammate Pecco Bagnaia on the podium last year as victor of the Spanish Grand Prix. He wanted to keep him at bay. Up at the front, Bagnaia and Quartararo exchanged lap times one early in that 20th lap, but Quartararo pulled it back again in the 4th sector. We thought it was going to be a straight duel between these two men, Pecco Bagnaia and Fabio Jack Miller, who is still... Turn 6 is another, and then the final, turn 13, the Jorge Lorenzo champion at bay.
Sideways, wasn't he there, Pecco Bagnaia? He's throwing everything on the... Jorge Martin has got a long lap penalty to add to his miserable day here in his home Grand Prix. Red Bull Grand Prix of Spain, the Red Bull Grand Prix, and these two are locking horns in this sector 3 with the agility and the corner speed of that factory Yamaha. It's the advantage. We've got 1 lap and 1 corner remaining here in Jerez. It will be Pecco Bagnaia.
Take a mistake for Pecco Bagnaia. 1 lap to go. It's just under half a second. It would take some. He might just have enough here.
A 1:38.1 on a 24-lap old Michelin rear tire. Another podium. He is going to look like he's going to convert a 3rd front row start of Jack Miller as Aleix Espargaro then looks to take his 3rd Rossum of the season. Fast to the Ducati ahead of him. Bagnaia again sideways on that factory G corner. Now into sector 2. The gap still 0.4 of a second.
Jack Miller, both factory Ducatis under fire in this final half a lap.
So into turn out, you can hear the roar of the crowd. They love it as they watch it on the big screen here. But here is the battle for the race win. I think Fabio Quartararo will not be close enough. Corner, he's going to get this job done. Quartararo's leaving it too late. It has been Bull Grand Prix of Spain in 2022. What a race by Pecco Bagnaia. Aleix Espargaro does take a stunning podium. His 3rd of the season for the factory. 4th place on that last lap from
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah wa syukurillah wa nikmatillah. Wallahu ta'ala bi kitabil karim. Hamdali wa fina ma yuwafi mazidah. Asyhadu an la ilaha illallah wa asyhadu anna Muhammadar Rasulullah. Allahumma sholli ala Muhammad wa ala alihi sayyidina Muhammad kama shallaita ala ali sayyidina Ibrahim wa ala ali sayyidina Ibrahim fil alamin innaka Hamidum Majid. Masih di channelnya Nawang Ayu ya, saya mewakili Nawang Ayu. Masih di bulan Ramadan, tepatnya di akhir bulan, di akhir puasa, tanggal 1 Mei 2022. Setelah kita menjalankan ibadah puasa, mudah-mudahan segala amal ibadah puasa kita dan amal-amal yang lain diterima di sisinya, dicatat sebagai amal yang baik. Tak lupa salam dan sholawat semoga tetap tercurahkan kepada Kanjeng Nabi Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Setelah kita nonton, setelah kita mendengarkan sholawat, lalu kita bertakbir, takbir 2022 ya. Setelah takbir, setelah kita menjalankan atau mendengarkan gema takbir, kita nonton Motogp ya. Jangan lupa segala sesuatu itu pasti ada hikmahnya. Untuk teman-teman yang fanatik sama Motogp, mohon di subscribe ya channelnya saya ini biar berkembang, biar bisa kasih hiburan. Nanti kalau sudah bosen kita bersolawat lagi. Untuk menaikkan subscribe atau centangnya kita ya seperti ini caranya. Habis nonton sholawat, habis sholawat kita takbir, habis itu nonton Motogp ya. Terima kasih untuk teman-teman yang sudah mensubscribe channel saya, yang sudah membantu mendukung bergotong royong untuk saling subscribe untuk membantu ya. Semoga kedepannya channel saya ini semakin berkembang, cepat tercapai tujuan saya, tercapai persyaratan monetisasinya ya. Mudah-mudahan dulur-dulur, teman-teman, sobat-sobat di sana mudah-mudahan diberikan kesehatan jasmani rohani dan diberikan rezeki yang melimpah meruah. Tentunya doa-doa orang baik-baik itu pastilah nanti juga didengar ya. Doa orang baik itu pasti mencapai langit ketujuh, cepat didengar, cepat tersampai, cepat dikabulkan. Oke teman-teman, terima kasih atas dukungannya, atas supportnya. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.